We often think of laws as a list of do's and don'ts, but what are they really meant for? And how did they evolve? Arash Azizi is a social historian and joins me today for a look at the past, present, and future of the law. Arash, what is the history and intention behind designing societies around the law?
Law is not really about do's and don'ts, but it is about a conception of justice. We might disagree on what is the justice, but that it exists so that the ideal of justice is there in society, and that our disagreements are solved through it. We are all following a lot of laws every day in our lives because we regard them as just, not because someone is stopping us. We don't not, you know, uh, put a theater on fire because we think someone's gonna arrest us, but because we consider it as just and as in common interest of ourselves and the society in which we live.
Justice is a broad concept of how things should be. In a just world, there would be no discrimination, violence, or poverty. Laws are the rules of engagement that countries design to help achieve justice. There are injustices. That's the reality we live in. And so there are people who are more powerful and people who are not as powerful and people who might not be effectively equal in regards to the law. How do we change that? How do we change the power inequalities that exist?
The history of law also includes history of civil disobedience by in India by Mahatma Gandhi, or in the United States by Martin Luther King. They're heroes of the story of the law, really, because they held law accountable to itself, if you will. Like they challenged the unjust laws on a bigger principle of law. And they were breaking the laws, in on the face of it, but really they were contravening some basic unjust legal rules that were in contravention of bigger legal principles.
What can the average person do to get involved and participate in this evolution?
I think I'll point to a couple of things. I think first of all, they should know their rights. Everyone in the world is entitled to investigation of human rights, and this, by the way, doesn't come from this. It doesn't come from some abstract principle. It comes from the fact that all countries of the world accepted. There's no country in the world that didn't accept the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. They all signed on to the covenants. They didn't have to. They signed on to it. So they have already promised to realize their rights. So they should be held accountable. So I think it's important to know what are the rights and to struggle for them. And it's also important to be active in politics. There are parliaments in again, almost every country in the world that design these laws. I think the basic civic duty of every citizen is to, of course, vote in the parliamentary elections, but know who is representing them in the parliament and what laws are they passing and how much are they doing to uphold those general rights and those general principles. So a basic devotion to rights and a basic activity in politics and civic life is how we make things more equal.
When we speak and think about the law, it's often a very intellectual undertaking. We think of it because it makes sense. And yet at the same time, unless people embrace the spirit of the law, the values underlying these laws, and unless hearts are changed, laws remain largely ineffective. What role can the arts play in creating justice and supporting or evolving, inspiring the law?
So I think it's very important for different art forms to be able to, first of all, educate people about the law and educate them about the rights they have. And I think that's why a lot of these courtroom dramas or things like that are actually very popular, because it's not just that they show an interesting conflict in the past, but I think they show the conflicts that have gotten us to where we are, and also the legal systems that exist.
Art can not only educate us about the law, but can also inspire us to achieve justice.
I think we should all struggle for a world in which our human differences can be solved peacefully and through law, because none of us would want violence, of course. On a personal level, it's very clear that human integrity and human sovereignty and human bodies are too precious to fall down into threats of violence that so unfortunately permeates our societies around the world.
What emerges for me is that laws are the foundation of our societies. It is up to us to be involved in supporting the rule of law and nurturing the values of universal human rights. Thanks for watching.